This is a zucchini that did not pollinate. And that's what happens when you get a female fruit and there didn't happen to be any males available at the time. One of the reasons I like to concentrate my squash and other cucurbits in one area, which has its own set of problems because then you attract bugs, is that if one plant doesn't have pollen available, another may. And as long as you're not trying to keep a variety true to type, in other words, this is a desert zucchini, this is a dunja zucchini, I don't care whether they mix because I'm not going to save seeds off these things anyway. It doesn't matter who pollinates. What just matters is that they pollinate. So this guy was early, and there were no males blooming at the time on any of these other ones, so it didn't get pollinated. And that's what happens. And I usually take them off as soon as I'm positive. You'll get that shrinkage kind of over here, and that means they're not going to make. The regular ones that are going to make, let me show you one of those. This was off the same plant, and you can see that plant that zucchini has been pollinated, and it's going to go. Now, I have harvested, this one here is just open, so are there any males out here today? Yeah, there are several male flowers open today on other plants. I have cheated. When the fruit is this size, if I'm concerned that it has not been pollinated, or if it's the very end of the season and we're highly likely to get a frost, you can harvest that and eat it. It won't hurt anything. It's just a nice, mild, yummy thing. It's fine. But, of course, we prefer when they get big and fat. And just about everybody in here is pollinating well now, so I don't expect to see many more like that didn't pollinate. See, there we go. That was a little patty pan I showed you guys the other day. I have two different colors of patty pan. This is the, I forgot the name of it. There's a tag in here, of course, but I can't see it under all the leaves. Anyway, this is one kind of patty pan. And over here we have Bennington Green. And this one has got a baby on it this morning, I noticed too. Right in the center there, in that center of the cluster, you can see a little one that's going to be a female flower. Now this one over here is a male flower, so that one's decorative, but it doesn't do you any good. But in the center, we have a female. So, yep. And all these other guys are doing great. I have not seen any fruit being set on these cucumbers over here yet, but there are a zillion flowers. So I'm just kind of trying to get in here every day. I'm looking for two different things. I'm watching for things like that fruit that didn't pollinate, or anything going wrong in terms of watering and stuff like that. But I'm also watching for bugs. I have killed several squash bugs over here in the last couple of days, and I'm watching for eggs on the bottom of the leaves. So you'll see me sort of flip it over and look for eggs. And if I were to find an egg mass, I would destroy it with my finger by squishing it. So, yep. Create some shade so that you get better get a picture here. But you see all those zucchinis in there? Whew. We're going to be up to our armpits in zucchinis really quickly. Now we do have some leaf hoppers here. I'm not thrilled with that. But because they can carry disease and there's nothing you can do about that except for spraying for them, and they hop around. Now here, evil creature from outer space. See that guy on that leaf there? I'm going to do my best job to get rid of him. So I'm going to damage him, throw him on the floor, and step on him. I do not need him or his brethren being a pain. So he's gone. I'm also going to do things like monitor how these things are climbing. A couple of these want to send off shoots off the edge. I may let them as time goes on, but right now I'm trying to focus most of the efforts up the trellis just to make it easier. Now this batch of cucumbers that I just planted over there, there's actually 3 cucumbers on that trellis and 3 cantaloupes. I have not grown cantaloupe on a trellis before. I know it is possible, and I decided this is as good as years to try it anyway, because why not? I'm trying everything else, I might as well try that too. But I'm trying to, when I planted those, I actually leaned them into the trellis on purpose so that they would naturally tend to stay on the trellis. And there's the answer to that question. We have a baby cucumber in there. I hadn't seen any before. I try not to poke around in here too much, but I can see now that there's a bunch of females in here too. Woo! Awesome, awesome. This is National Pickling. So, yeah, very excited about that. Very cool. I'll have to tell Henry that National Pickling is busy blooming for him. The ones over there that are cucumbers, the tall ones on the trellis are Sarah, which is actually cantaloupe. The short ones are Marketmore. So yeah, a lot of the stuff should have been planted out like a month ago, but we had a case of life, so it is what it is. The nice thing is these beds are now made. They might require a little repair or something next year, but amendment, but basically they'll be in place, which will make a humongous difference in terms of how much labor we have to put in to get stuff in. So let me finish browsing through here just to make sure, and I am having some ant problems, which means I am going to need to make some ant stuff. We use natural ant poison around here that is made of sugar and borax, and generally works pretty well. A couple of the natural insecticides that we use also are good for controlling some types of ants. We try not to spray too much, even with natural products. So we'll see. I'll have to see how bad it gets, if they get to be really a pain. Last year we had quite a bit of trouble with ants because we had trouble with aphids. It all happened while we were gone. We came back to a bad aphid infestation on our peppers, and the ants, of course, were farming the aphids for the sweet goo that they make. So, yeah. I am not concerned about these having gotten wet. They will dry really quickly, and if I'm concerned, I could just knock a little of the water off of them. They're highly unlikely to burn or anything else here because we normally dry so quickly. But just to be paranoid, I'll shake off a little of the water. Pretty much usually as soon as we get a little tiny bit of breeze, everything is dry. But it's in. Yay! I'm so excited. That is cool. And these cantaloupes are just absolutely full. Now, to this point, the vast majority of the flowers have been male, which, as we discussed the other day, is pretty but doesn't give you any fruit. I expect that we'll start to see the females blossom now, and that'll be just awesome. And I'm going to experiment with this whole thing on the trellis. I know it can be done, and you may need to provide slings for the actual fruits. I don't have a problem doing that. I'm out here every single day, with very few exceptions, checking things, making sure everything's watered correctly. Later today I will run irrigation. I already have an irrigation line. It's a main line that goes over to this other bed here, and it stubs out right there at that. It's maybe hard to see. It's black. There's a black valve there, and I'll be able to bring another line over here and just run another main line here and offshoots. So I should not have any trouble keeping these guys comfortably damp, shall we say. And that system over there has worked really, really well for me. I haven't used any of that type main line with offshoots and stuff like that for a very long time, because we've just somehow switched off to the stuff that you can, that Rainbird and Dripworks sells, that's available at Home Depot. And it worked for a long time for us, but we're beginning to find that we need more. So we're going to be switching at least partially back to drip tape. The drip tape I have cannot be buried currently, and my goal is to have drip tape that I can bury by next year, because we have some specific plans that we want to use buried drip tape. Say that 6 times fast. buried drip tape. So, I hope you guys find this inspiring. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because obviously we will be doing all kinds of stuff. We are not done planting yet. This bed here, which has snow peas in it, is still producing. It looks kind of shaggy, but I'm still getting a nice handful or two every day, and there's a whole bunch of flowers on there right now, so we'll let that go for a while. This bed here is going to be, oops, I'm cockeyed. Yes, you're wondering if our garden is on an angle. No, it's not. This is actually fairly flat here. This section here is going to be green beans, and that over there will probably also be green beans, and I'm not sure what else. But this end is obviously okra. We had the one flower over here blooming the other day, and it is now turning into a pod. So it's pod people time. There we go. You can see that pod there right now, and right above it, there's the pod down here. And right above it, there's a whole nother cluster of what's going to be bloomed. So we did lose one bud on that one over there in the corner. Just got beat up a little too much by the wind, I think. But above it, there's a whole cluster of buds. We suddenly have a rodent infestation. You can see that these callaloo have been munched. I actually caught 2 rats and a mouse in this bed, by just one bed, the other day. So I'm not happy with that. But the callaloo is growing great. Now I can see that they even munched a little bit of Swiss chard last night. That does not make me happy. So that means I got to put more rat traps down. I had 3 rat traps up here last night. Didn't catch anybody. So I'll switch out my bait. I normally use fresh apple, and my apple's a couple days old now. Oh, and we have another okra flower blooming right there. Cool. Have fun. Be safe. See you later. Bye.